How far can the Korean War be seen as a triumph for the United States? So in this presentation, we need to look at the consequences of the war for the US and our allies, and how these consequences link together, and was the Korean War a success or a failure? So as we're working our way through this presentation, be thinking about the following: the consequences for the US, for Europe and Germany, for Japan, for the Pacific Rim countries, Southeast Asia, and the cost in human lives. Politically, the Democrats were defeated due to the Korean War, and for the first time in 20 years, the Republicans regained the office of the presidency in the 52-53 presidential elections. Eisenhower promised a brand new foreign policy that would be more aggressive, a new look. He was prepared to use the technological advantages that the United States had in order to win a war. Or as he talks in terms of massive retaliation and brinkmanship, this idea of staring out the opposition, playing chicken with them, knowing that you are literally prepared to go to the brink and beyond. The aim of US foreign policy had been to contain communism, and this had been done in Korea. Remember, rollback when it was attempted had been a failure. Therefore, any more aggression in US policy has to be contextualized against this. The USSR were forced into an arms race that ultimately they wouldn't be able to afford. The lengths they'd gone to acquire the bomb were extraordinary. The Chinese gained prestige as they had saved North Korea from MacArthur and inflicted serious losses on the UN. Indochina now became an area of vital interest. Thus, Korea impacted on US foreign policy because it reorientated American foreign policy after the Korean War to Southeast Asia, where more things are now starting to occur, thinking in terms of Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. There hadn't really been any clearly planned policy towards the defense of Asia prior to the Korean War. We understand the significance of Japan, but Acheson was very ambiguous about the defense perimeter. The Truman Doctrine, when tested in 1950, would seem to suggest that American foreign policy was now directed to every area. Subsequently, America now decided and agreed to the ANZUS Pact, agreeing mutual defense with Australia and New Zealand. This could be seen as a US policy shift, concentrating more on Southeast Asia, reorienting away from Europe, which had been the principal priority. The US now gained a clear policy on the Cold War. The Truman Doctrine, when tested, would be applied wherever and whenever. High defense spending had been established, and there had been continuity over years. This wasn't a flash in the pan. NATO had been created, upgraded, and enhanced. There was a fundamental belief now in the United States that USSR's expansionist policies could threaten US interests anywhere in the world, and that American presidents should stand up to and confront it. Also, the UN had successfully intervened in the conflict. Consequently, Asian countries formed SEATO, a direct copy of NATO, to prevent the spread of communism. After 3 years of fighting on the Korean Peninsula, nothing had been achieved along the 38th parallel. 250,000 US soldiers were in Korea, 33,000 of which had died. Almost 500,000 South Korean troops had been killed, and UN troops had lost 3,000 men. The North Korean and the Chinese had lost in excess of 2 million men and wounded. The UN gained respect as they were showing they were willing to get involved in a war, willing to act as per their mandate when they were established in 1945.